It starts in a desert where a lone child wanders, chewing on a human finger, searching for his mother. Nearby, a car stops on a road that ends abruptly. The driver, Wyndham, a photographer, sets out on foot to capture the solar eclipse. As the day ends, he heads back to his car but encounters a scared, lost boy. Though Wyndham offers help, the boy refuses and points toward where he lost his parents before walking away. Wyndham tries to help the boy, but the child rudely rejects his support and leaves. Left alone in the dark, Wyndham has no way back to civilization. He lies on the ground, unable to sleep as the day's events replay in his mind. Suddenly, he hears strange sounds and follows them, discovering stakes with ropes strung between them, holding bottles that chime melodiously. Ahead lies a vast canyon with a wooden house at the bottom, where a woman roams, singing a song. Wyndham calls out for help, but the woman enters the house, ignoring him. He finds an iron ladder leading halfway down the canyon, followed by a rope ladder. After descending, he reaches the house and knocks repeatedly, receiving no response. Taking the initiative, Wyndham opens the door and steps inside. The woman at the stove greets him calmly, as though expecting him. Despite his refusal, she serves him soup and sets it on the table. Grateful for Alina's hospitality, Wyndham asks how to leave the strange place, mentioning the boy he encountered and requesting water. Alina advises him to rest until morning, and he gratefully accepts. He observes her tidying up and notes her youth and beauty. The next morning, Wyndham gathers his belongings and steps outside, searching for a way home. Strangely, the rope ladder he used is gone, making it impossible to reach the iron section above. Wyndham returns to the house and begins taking pictures of the surroundings and the canyon wall drawings, which evoke a grim sense of death. He notices Alina repairing the roof and asks about the missing ladder, but she either doesn't understand or pretends not to. Though she hints at other residents, she reveals nothing directly. Disheartened, Wyndham wanders the canyon, calling for help, but gets no response. Later, Alina asks him to undress so she can wash his clothes, saying it wouldn't be proper to return home in such a dirty state. With no choice, Wyndham complies. That night, unable to sleep, he goes outside, searching again for an escape but finds none. In the morning, he searches the house, finds a hammer, and tries to climb the canyon wall. Suddenly, he sees movement above, and a chicken carcass falls, causing him to lose his grip and fall. He regains consciousness in the dark, his leg injured by the hammer, and cries out in pain. Alina rushes to his aid but refuses to answer his questions about the children he saw on the cliff for several days. Drifting in and out of fever, Wyndham loses track of time, unsure if the children he sees are real. When he finally recovers, he limps outside and demands Alina ask the children above to help him escape. But she feigns ignorance. She offers to care for him and ensure his well-being if he stays, but Wyndham refuses, intent on returning to his work. Pushing her away, he examines his injured leg and realizes it will be a long time before he fully recovers. Suddenly, Wyndham hears voices from above and looks up to see the boy holding a little girl by the hand. They cheerfully ask how they can help, and upon learning Wyndham wants to climb out, the boy promises to bring ropes and pull him up with his winch. Before leaving, the boy asks an odd question about Wyndham's favorite color, to which Wyndham replies, "Red," and urges them to hurry. The boy and girl leave, and Wyndham checks his wallet, deciding not to return for his other belongings. Suddenly, a rope falls and the boy advises him to tie himself securely, which Wyndham does. As they begin to pull him up, Wyndham expects to be rescued, but halfway up, the rope stops. Dangling over the canyon, Wyndham screams and tries to climb the rope himself, but his strength fails, leaving him helpless under the relentless sun. As he regains consciousness, he sees the boy spraying him with a hose, mocking him. Several other children appear on the cliff, ranging from young to older teens, all wearing clothes clearly taken from others and taunting Wyndham. They swing the rope, causing him to crash into the canyon walls. Desperately calling for help from Alina, he sees her shouting angrily at the children before losing consciousness again from another blow to the wall. That night, Wyndham wakes up in bed and immediately tries to get up. Alina doesn't understand where he's going, but Wyndham is determined to escape. The woman explains that the children are homeless, living together in the desert, surviving as best they can. Neither of them notices the children watching them from the cliff while they talk. The next day, Wyndham watches as Alina releases a bird, envying its ability to fly. She brings him a spare set of clothes, and though he didn't ask for them, he's touched by her care. As time passes, Wyndham plants a small garden at the bottom of the canyon. Occasionally, the children bring him food and drinks, which surprises him since there are no stores nearby. He doesn't understand their behavior. First they feed him, then mock him. But Alina accepts it as normal. The man becomes more involved in the household, admiring Alina's calm nature. One night, as he tries to ask her questions, their conversation is interrupted by cries from the yard. Alina advises him not to go outside when the children act like that, but he rushes into the night. He finds the boys in strange clothes, taunting, pushing, and beating him before suddenly disappearing into the darkness. Wyndham demands answers from Alina, asking who the children are, why they live there, and why she stays in such a horrible place, but she remains calm and doesn't admit she's a prisoner. That evening, she visits him, and the man, starved for female attention, eagerly welcomes her. Time passes, and the first sprouts appear in Wyndham's garden. One day, the boy in the cap calls down to him, offering to bring soda. Wyndham returns to his plants and unexpectedly finds a wedding ring and car keys buried in the sand. That evening, Alina shows him a portrait of a woman, calling her the first mother, and confesses that she is expecting his child. Stunned, Wyndham can't believe what he hears. He never wanted children, especially with a woman he barely knows. He yells at Alina, but he has no choice but to accept it. The next morning, he finds his garden destroyed by local birds, but Alina willingly helps him replant, earning his gratitude. Gradually, life in the house settles into some order. Alina runs the household while Wyndham works on his leg. One day, the boy in the cap visits again, full of curiosity and asking Wyndham many questions. Wyndham asks the boy to help Alina, as she's going to have a child and they'll need a doctor. He also asks the boy to bring some rope and a heavy object for a counterweight, planning to climb out and take them to the city, where he can care for both the woman and the boy. The boy promises to do everything when everyone is asleep or gone, but then one of the older boys appears and takes him away. Wyndham tells Alina that the boy wants to study, that he's smart and different from the others, and wants to live a different life. He wishes to help both the boy and Alina, but her reaction is strange. She questions what Wyndham feels is missing, and when he mentions freedom, she's confused, pointing out that no one stops him from doing anything here. So isn't that freedom? Wyndham then describes the outside world, recalling the ocean and a cheeseburger. Alina doesn't know what that is, so he explains it to her. She shares that her mother used to say mirages exist outside, but here everything in the desert is real. Wyndham then shows her photos he took the day he arrived, but it's not the solar eclipse that catches her attention. It's a random shot of him in the car with music playing in the background. At night, Wyndham is tormented by nightmares of the children's terrifying faces mocking him. The next morning, he hears Alina's horrible scream from the yard, and rushing outside, he sees the boy in the cap crucified over the canyon on wires. The savages stand on the cliff, laughing. Alina suddenly declares that brothers wouldn't do such a thing, accusing Wyndham of killing her son. She strikes him on the head with a board. When he regains consciousness, Wyndham finds himself in a cage. Despite his pleas and begging, Alina has no intention of letting him go. She feeds him like an animal while her children come to watch his suffering. One day, Wyndham sees a girl standing on the cliffs, clearly not from around here. He catches her attention but is too terrified to shout, fearing Alina will wake up. Whispering, he begs her to call for help. She understands and promises to do whatever it takes, assuring him she will return soon. Wyndham waits in hiding, watching the heavily pregnant Alina as she goes about her chores. Suddenly, he hears screams and sees the savages catching the girl. They drag her to the cliff and dramatically kill her before his eyes. Time passes, and Wyndham remains in the cage, forced to witness unnatural rituals performed by Alina, her children, and her brothers. One day, Wyndham unexpectedly tells Alina that he wants to stay here forever, to raise his child and love her, as she will become his queen. He vows to teach the child all he knows and to give himself fully, saying it's his decision. Alina laughs when she hears the word decision, explaining that he never truly had one. He's just a seed blown into this place, and the child belongs to her alone. Wyndham is kept in the cage until the baby's born. At last, the day of birth arrives. As Alina cries out in pain, Wyndham paces in the cage. She approaches him, desperate for help, claiming it's the most difficult birth she's ever experienced. She frees him from the cage, and he does what he can to relieve her suffering. The children stand on the cliff, watching what unfolds below. Suddenly, Wyndham notices a ladder descending from above, but Alina cries out, and he stays by her side. The child is born during the solar eclipse. Wyndham holds the baby girl in his arms, overjoyed to become a father. Alina begs him to hand the baby over, and when she receives the child, she promises to care for and protect her until she becomes the new mother. Then she will fulfill her purpose, just as Wyndham has fulfilled his. At that moment, the boy sneaks up and slits Wyndham's throat, exulting over the collapsing man, assuring him that it's all for the mother. Later, Alina gathers Wyndham's belongings and packs them into a chest before turning to the baby, promising her that everything will be fine. Meanwhile, Wyndham's body decays in the yard of the house, sprouting grass and turning to dust. This is where the strange tale comes to an end.